Hi and welcome. This is your instructional video on understanding poetry. Understanding poetry. So to understand poetry, we need to talk about a lot of different things. So we're going to start with the elements. So poetry is a form of writing that uses not only words, but also form, patterns of sound, imagery, and figurative language to convey the author's message. So I have here, we have the writer's heart, and it goes directly to the reader's heart. So poetry is all about feelings, how the words make you feel. The poet is trying to make you feel a certain way, creating an atmosphere, using different types of tricks and techniques to get you to feel a certain way. Now, other texts, they have the writer's heart, the writer's intention. Then you're going to have to use your brain a lot. You're going to really have to get clinical about it. And then you're going to reach that theme and reach that feeling. But poetry goes straight to your heart. Even as you read it, you can feel it. So, form. Form is the poem's appearance. So poems are divided into lines. So we have one line, second line. The lines are like the sentences. You can see how they're divided. It might not end with a period. It has to keep going. Line 1, the wind was a torrent of darkness. Line 2, among the gusty trees. So that's one sentence, but it's two lines. Now lines are also divided, they're grouped together into what we call stanzas. So stanzas are like the paragraphs of the poem. Each stanza can contain a single idea, or it can take the idea one step further. So, as I said, stanza is a group of lines. They often have 4 to 6 lines, kind of like a paragraph in regular prose writing. But we have some exceptions. We have a 2-line stanza, which are called couplets, which you can see here. So the stanza usually develops one idea, it can advance the idea, or it can begin a new idea, thought, or image. So we have our little poem here. We can see right away there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. And how many stanzas? We've marked them. 1, 2, 3, 4 stanzas. And what do we call it when it's 2 again? Couplets. That's right. Couplets. So this poem has 8 lines, 4 stanzas, and each stanza is going to have a new image. Let's read it. First and Last by David McCord. A tadpole hasn't a pole at all, and he doesn't live in a hole in the wall. You've got it wrong. A polecat's not a cat on a pole. And I'll tell you what, a bullfrog's never a bull. And how could a cowbird possibly be a cow? A kingbird, though, is a kind of king, and he chases a crow like anything. So we see number 1 is about a tadpole. Number 2 is a different animal. Number 3, a different animal. And number 4 is a different animal. So each stanza is a different image the poet is creating for you. We're picturing a tadpole, the polecat, a bullfrog, and then we're picturing a kingbird. So poets use sound devices. These are techniques of sound. So you can have rhythm, rhyme, alliteration, onomatopoeia, and we're going to go into those different categories right now. So rhyme, this is the repetition of the same or similar sounds. Now rhyme scheme is the pattern that is created at the end of lines of poetry. So we see an example here. My cat is my best friend. I'll love her till the end. If I'm upstairs or down, she follows me around. Now we start here, we see friend and end rhyme. So we're going to put an A next to the poem because friend and end, they rhyme together. Now, next one, down. Down does not rhyme with end, so we can't write an A here. They don't rhyme. So we're going to start with B. bee rhyme? Does bee rhyme down rhyme with around? Yes. So B, B. Friend end rhyme A, down and around rhyme B, B. Now if there's another line, we would start C unless it rhymed with B or A. Now not all poems have to have a rhyme scheme. If it doesn't, this is called a free verse poem. For repetition, this is the repeating of a particular sound device to create an effect. So this creates emphasis. So a poet may repeat words or lines within the poem to show you something a little bit important or to make a familiar sound in your head. So listen while I read. Last night I dreamt about chickens. They were playing on my pillows, they were nesting in my head, they were walking in my room, they were lying on my bed. You can hear that repeating phrase, they were, they were, they were, they were. It gives it kind of a sing-songy vibe. Last night I dreamt about chickens. They were playing on my pillows, they were nesting in my head, they were walking in my room, they were lying on my bed. This really gives you that image of the chickens. You're like, oh, these chickens are everywhere. They were doing this, they were doing that, they were doing this, they were doing that. It makes the poem a little bit more fun. I could just tell you about my dream, but if I do it in this poem form, it sounds a little bit better. It has more feeling to it. It's a little bit fancier. Alliteration. This is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginnings of words. So you might be familiar with tongue twisters. Those are these. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. You see P, 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 P. You see the word P over and over again. That's an alliteration. 7 silver swans swam silently seaward. You see that repetition of the S over and over again. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. This is important. It's showing you something important in the poem. The poet puts it in there for a specific reason, to catch your ear, to catch your eye. They might not all be this obnoxious, so it might not be S, 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 S. It might be S, S, another word, then another S. It might be a little bit more subtle in this. We'll get into that later. And our last one is onomatopoeia. So if you've read comic books or seen maybe cartoons, you might have seen things like pow, splat, boom. So onomatopoeia, these are words that are used to represent particular sounds. So when you see the word boom like that, it's an onomatopoeia, and you can hear it. You can hear a big explosion. If you see in a cartoon a big dramatic punch, you can see the pow. Words that are used to represent sound. This is also for animals, like you might see moo or cluck for a chicken, stuff like that. So the last thing we're going to cover is literal language versus figurative language. So literal language is literally what the words say. It means exactly what it says. The grass looks green. Sand feels rough. Grasshoppers make a high-pitched noise. Just exactly what it is. Nothing tricky, nothing fancy, it's not spiced up. Figurative language is the opposite. So it's words or phrases that do not have their normal literal meaning. So they're not literally what they're supposed to mean. This makes writing more interesting or dramatic. So you could say the grass looks green, or you could say the grass looks like spiky green hair. That's a simile. So that gives you this big dramatic viewing. You can really see it. You can see that spiky grass. Grass looks green. Maybe you're picturing turf, some flat grass, but spiky green hair, that really gives you a visual. Sand feels rough. Now, if you want to make it spicy, sand is solid water. This is a metaphor. Grasshoppers make a high-pitched noise. Okay, that's a fact about grasshoppers. Now, if you want to make it a little bit more exciting, Grasshoppers are fiddlers who play their legs. That's personification. That's a little bit more exciting than they make a high-pitched noise. You can really hear it and see it. So here are the steps to annotate a poem. It seems like a lot, but a lot of it is just taking notes and going through it. It's easier than it looks. So we're going to go through 1 through 5 today. Read the poem all the way through. Seems pretty obvious. You want to know what you're doing. You want to know what you're reading. Chunk out the poem by stanza. So we've done that for annotating the whole time. You're going to make little segments so you can get the gist. Read each stanza again. Underline words you don't understand. Look them up and write them on the poem. Highlight any words that are impactful or interesting. We've done that before as well. And identify the literal meaning of each stanza. So counting sheep. Toss and turn, turn and toss. At least 1,000,000 sheep I count. Toss and turn, I still can't sleep. Instead, the sheep jump one by one. I don't know why this doesn't work. Why do I lie here awake? Wait a sec, don't sheep need sleep? Back in the pen they go. Good night, sheep, I say to them, and then I promptly fall asleep. So that's our poem called Counting Sheep. This next section, I highlighted what's important. Toss and turn and toss, 1,000,000 sheep. So what's the literal meaning? The speaker is tossing and turning while counting sheep. Next stanza, I don't know why this doesn't work. Why do I lie here awake? Literal meaning, the speaker doesn't know why counting sheep isn't working. Last one, wait a sec, don't sheep need sleep? Back in the pen they go. So what's happening here? The speaker realizes that sheep need sleep too and stops counting. The speaker falls asleep. So I didn't know what promptly meant, so I underlined it and I said, looked it up. It means without delay. So that is the first couple steps to annotating a poem.